Shalom and welcome to the Personal Tanya, Day 13, Game-Changing Novelties in Tanya's profound work according to the daily schedule. Today's subject is mindful living, because in today's Tanya, we learn that it is mankind, the human being, who is the fulcrum of creation, who has the ability to modify everything that he touches. Specifically, we do that through our thoughts. The thoughts with which we do or speak or engage with anything in the world, the intention with which we engage with anything in the world, either elevates that thing or downgrades everything that we touch. And the reason for that is, based upon what we've been learning, that everything comes from God, right? Everything comes from God. So if something is drawn from God's essence, then it's holy. But if it's not drawn from God's essence, but drawn from God's superficial energy, what we've been calling klipa, then there's two kinds of derivatives from God's superficial energy. If it's drawn from the thin membrane, what's called klipas noga, the klipa, the membrane, or the shell or the peel of light, the thin membrane, then it's neutral. But if it's drawn from the thick husk, from the from the energy of God, which is superficial, but a very, very thick external layer of superficiality of God's energy, then it is something which is absolutely prohibited, something which we're not allowed to engage with. So today we're talking about all those things that fall into the middle category. They're not drawn from God's essence, in which case they're not holy, like tefillin or mezuzahs or a Torah scroll. That's something which would be holy, drawn from God's essence. And they're also not prohibited, like pig or shrimp or lobster, which comes from the very thick husk of God's superficial energy, but rather it comes from the thin membrane, which is God's the thin membrane of God's superficiality. And that would include pretty much everything else in this world that is neither holy nor prohibited. For example, water or salt or money or marriage, or which marriage question is if it's a permissible marriage, right? These are all the things that would fall into the category of klipas noga, which is the klipa of light or the thin membrane, which basically means they're neither holy nor forbidden. These things are neutral. It's pretty much everything we touch, like food or money or fire or houses or work. Everything we touch is from that neutral energy, and depending on how we use it, the intention with which we use it will determine whether it rises up into holiness or descends down into unholiness. For example, when you're eating food, why are you eating food? If you're eating food just to indulge your appetite or your desire, you're schlepping it down. But if you're eating the food in order to give you energy to study Torah, or if you're eating food in order to celebrate the Shabbos or the Yontif to celebrate God, you've elevated it up. Same thing with jokes. If you're saying jokes and it's just frivolous, it's a waste of time, and it'd be schlepping it down. You're wasting time from time that could have been used for good. But if you're cracking jokes in order to calm down yourself or calm down the person that you're talking to, in order to be able to be more receptive to a Torah idea, now you are ready to elevate that joke into something holy. It all depends on the intention. My father, every time he sits down to a Shabbos meal, he will always say these words, L'koved Shabbos Kodesh Uvay, in honor of the Holy Shabbos, Oivei, which is some sort of an ancient Jerusalemite declaration that says, the reason why I'm indulging in this delicious kugel and kichel and herring and schmaltz herring and cholent and everything else is in order to elevate and sanctify the Holy Shabbos. It's something which I've always appreciated in my father's custom. See, and this is the difference between that which is neutral and that which is forbidden. If it's forbidden, it means that it's not anything which we're able to elevate. That's why it's something like bacon or lobster, even if you eat it for the right reason, it's not going to be elevated, or a forbidden marriage. But something which is permissible, like a regular marriage, you're marrying a Jewish woman, someone you're allowed to marry. But the question is, why are you marrying her? Are you marrying her for selfish reasons, or are you marrying her for holy reasons? It all depends. That's what's going to determine whether it's going to rise up or descend down below. And in the flow of the Tanya today, we're learning that just like the garments of the godly soul, are actually able to lift the godly soul higher. It's the garments of the animal soul, the natural soul, that schlep it down. The garments, remember, are thought, speech, and action. So when the natural soul is used for forbidden things, forbidden words, forbidden speech, or forbidden thoughts, then it schleps down the natural soul. But if the natural soul is engaged in clothing and garments, thought, speech, and action, which are not forbidden but just neutral, then it's not schlepping it down, because the natural soul itself is from that klipas noga, from that clip of light, from the thin membrane of divine superficial energy, and therefore it's not actually schlepping it down. And that is the wrap on today's Tanya. That man is the fulcrum of creation. Be mindful of your thoughts. Every thought that you have can lift up whatever you touch, turning it to light, or can schlep it down, turning it to black. The choice is yours.